It's on now. You can hear me. Excuse my voice this morning, please. I'm battling the summer cold. So, I'd like to call the meeting to order for our Homeless Impact Commission. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commission members Acosta?
Present.
Mohammed?
Present.
Holly?
Present.
Sarah Saris? Vice Chair Dawson?
Present.
Chair Tremere?
Thank you.
We have a quorum.
Okay. If you'd all just stand for me while we have a quick prayer to open our meeting. And ask, please, that we bless our gathering with unity, hope, and vision. May goodness and love be present amongst us today. Build in us a deep respect for one another so that our work for the community will enhance our quality of life. We pray for hope within our hearts and renewed faith. We pray for vision to fill our lives, and we ask all this in your name. Amen. And then we will have the pledge by Lanya London, please.
Everybody please remain standing. Flag is facing this way. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any items on the consent calendar you would like to pull for discussion? So with that, do we have a motion and a second for the approval of our minutes of May 27th? Do I have to do those separately? I can do them all together because it's consent, right? For the approval of the minutes of May 27th, June 13th, and June 21st. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve all minutes.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Actually, there's a correction.
Oh, there is a correction?
Yes, for the June 23rd, I believe it's in attendance, and I was.
Oh. Thank you.
Motion to approve the minutes with added correction.
And I'll second it.
Thank you. I voted ahead of time. Oops. Fran, your vote?
Oh, yes, I approve.
Thank you. Motion's approved. Okay, so now we are moving on to new business. We have a presentation today for us from Mr. Lee DeRico. Good morning.
Morning, Chair Tremere and distinguished commissioners. Jocelyn, please. This is Jocelyn Corbett, the Assistant City Attorney. So Jocelyn wrote the ordinance, but before you today is an ordinance as it relates to food distribution within the city on public property. Just to give you some historical background, we've had some issues in areas where, while intentions are very good by different groups to go out and feed folks out in the community, they're not providing appropriate things in our mind to deal with refuse as well as health potential issues as it relates to food distribution. So what the intent here is to bring forward for your consideration and recommendation. We're also doing that with the Criminal Justice Commission and move forward with the City Council for their final opinion on this and vote. But the background is not to obviously negate people doing that. While intentions are very good, the idea is to bring it into a standard that's appropriate regarding the health of the individuals receiving the food, as well as the format in which it's done. So with that, I'd like Jocelyn just to present the ordinance, and then we'll answer any questions you may have.
Good morning. The ordinance is fairly straightforward. What we'd like to do is we appreciate and admire the sentiment in groups wanting to help the homeless and other needy persons, and it's a wonderful thing. But we're trying to encourage groups to either use their own facilities, churches or what have you, or to work with other organizations in a location where other services are being provided in addition to serving food. Kind of creates the holistic approach that we're all, I think, trying to look at in tackling the whole matter all in one fell swoop. So the ordinance basically does prohibit the distribution or serving of food on public property. There are some exemptions. City events, county events, those kinds of things are exempted. For example, the food trucks on Monday at the park and so forth. We're encouraging organizations that maybe don't have their own facilities, if they do want to do some kind of a food distribution event, to get a park rental, and then they can be in a location in one of our parks that has access to water, restrooms, trash, and all of those kinds of things. We're also calling out that we need to make sure that these organizations are getting the proper permits from the health department to make sure that they're preparing, packaging, serving, and cleaning up after the food appropriately and safely, and that things are prepared in a sanitary fashion. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I'm available for any questions if you have any.
And on a side note to this, one of the goals of the city is that we're in a whole emphasis on beautification of the city, and one of the biggest issues and complaints that we get from our constituency is the amount of trash that's within the downtown area and throughout the city, as a matter of fact. So one of the things this pulls in line is to make sure that, you know, we're addressing those issues along. And so it isn't just specifically related just to homeless folks, it's to anybody that's providing any kind of food service out there, that they're properly, it's done in a way that's appropriate based on the goals that we're moving forward as a city.
Of course.
Yes.
Sorry, is this an opportunity to make a comment, or?
Certainly.
Yeah, okay. So I think that what we're trying to do is clear, and I think even the intentions behind it is clear. But oftentimes, even when we're trying to do something right, the perception of how that's rolled out will affect, people's posture and how they receive what's being done. So I'd like to suggest that part of rolling out the ordinance is facilitating or maybe creating a platform or information tool that lets people know who are those agencies that you're talking about. And maybe that means that we have to create that process. We have to officially create a place where somebody can say, these are the official food distributors, or these are the official agencies or social service, groups or whatever. And this is how you can get involved with them. And this is what that step is. And what my whole intent behind that is that we would, as a city, as a commission or whatever, say, we are behind serving the people, but we want to serve them the right way. So we want that to be the message, and this is a tool, and this is a step in that direction. Does that make sense, or?
And no, I understand that. And what that would be is saying there's certain qualified providers. So if you're wishing to provide food services, you distribute that through that provider in an appropriate manner that's already been approved through the process with the city and the health department and all those things. And actually, I personally think that's probably a really good idea. Again, it's, the whole point of this is it's protection for both sides, right? We want to make sure that whoever's distributing food, it's qualified, okay, and there's a certain standard for it. And the second thing is, to protect the folks out there that are receiving it. Absolutely. And then on the other side is the fact that it ties into what our goals and objectives are in the next year for the city on the projects we're working on for beautification. I can tell you right now, just from a refuse standpoint, just from encampment cleanups is about 40 tons a week.
Yep.
So these are things that this ties into other things that we're already doing.
I'm sorry, I will say, the Criminal Justice Commission discussed this at their meeting last week, and they formed a subcommittee, and they're going to meet with some of the church groups, because those are groups that are very actively involved in this, and that's a wonderful thing. So they're going to get their input and get their feedback and work with them. I think this commission would be a wonderful resource for reaching out the way you're talking about. This seems to me the most logical group to handle that.
Yeah, and so the way that we roll it out will make a huge difference in how it's received, and I think the message here is we want to be the most effective in how we serve people. And so this is a step to do that safely and accurately, as opposed to, I think because I'm one of those agencies that goes out to serve, and the feedback that we hear is, oh, the city is trying to shoo away the homeless, they don't want the homeless here, that kind of stuff. And that's not the message that we're conveying at all. We're saying, we want to do this the right way. We want to do it safely. We want to do it effectively. And so it'll just be important to roll it out with that and say, this is just one step and one tool that we're using to make sure that we're effective in what we're doing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Are you finding, oh, sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
My question or concern is, what about the individual who's not connected to a church or who's not connected to an organization? Say grandma just wakes up one morning and she wants to cook some food and take it to the homeless to feed them. Are there any repercussions if they happen to be seen serving food? Will they just get talked to? How does that process work?
I think it's safe to say that we would give Grandma a talking to. I don't think we're going to cite her or file a criminal case or anything like that. If you violate the ordinance, it is an offense, but that's not the direction we're trying to go. We're trying to educate and train people, teach people to reach out and to do it in facilities where it's safe. That's all.
And I can tell you from a practice policy for enforcement for our municipal code, across the entire municipal code, is compliance, not to be punitive.
No.
The intent is to bring people in compliance, and that is a policy of our council and our city manager, and that's how we manage things. So Jocelyn and I get to meet with people a lot, okay, about some issues.
Because I have a next door neighbor, and she's grandma, and that's what she does. That's just like her thing. She puts together sacks of lunches, and she serves it to the people who are by the airplane over there. I will talk to her to let her know that that's coming, but what if somebody doesn't have me next door to them? What happens?
Well, we will talk to people who we see out doing that kind of distribution and just and educate them on what the ordinance is and what we're hoping they can do.
And there's always a period of time before we implement any municipal code where we go through a process of educating the public through social media, the city's website. I use Cinemark a lot for public safety ads, things that we do to educate folks first before we do any kind of enforcement as it relates to that. So obviously there's a period of time of warning and advising people. I like Mr. Acosta's idea, okay, that we could refer people to a approved distribution outlet for them to provide those services like food banks, those type of things. I think that's a very appropriate way maybe to incorporate that here. Maybe this is an opportunity for this commission to form a subgroup that could work collaboratively with the other commissioners on what suggestions we bring forward and recommendations and any adjustment made to this ordinance. Again, that's why we're sunlighting this now for everyone's input. So, and of course, everything is in our world is like kind of a living document type things. If there's things we need to adjust, I will tell you that Ms. Corbett spends a majority of her time looking back at our municipal code that already exists and how we can more appropriately manage some of those items and bring them up to date where it's a more appropriate application.
And for example, your next door neighbor, if we have that outreach and we have that sort of pool of resources, then we can direct her towards these are some of the organizations you can volunteer with and do what it is you want to be doing. It's just that's a wonderful idea. Yeah.
We can avoid black eyes with that. In fact, maybe even a tool or something you can hand out to say, hey, we love what you're doing. We love your heart. Here are some agencies that are already doing it. You can join them, and that way it's all done safely and
Yes,
makes
absolutely.
sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, a couple things. For the second question, I think it leads back to what Commissioner Acosta was talking about. That would be the resource that those individuals who don't currently belong to some larger organization can channel their desire to help through some of those organizations that are in place. With respect to the fee, what I can tell you is that Vice Mayor Christ last week at the CJC meeting did request that the subcommittee look into whether it would be appropriate to have some kind of a fee waiver depending on certain circumstances. They haven't had the subcommittee meeting yet, so we haven't made any progress in that regard, but that is an issue that was raised.
I think this is a good opportunity. You know, one of the challenges that we're having in the Antelope Valley as a whole is that there are a ton of different people all trying to do the same thing. And this is a great opportunity to maybe convey that message and say, hey guys, we can all get on the same page and become more efficient, maybe create some synergy with what we're doing. So along the lines of the question you were asking, if someone's on a shoestring budget, joining someone who's already doing it would help their whatever budget is go further. And then there's some different options on how to do that. We provide opportunities for people who want to volunteer and they can't afford to provide the food, but they just want to make that connection. So we provide an opportunity to just serve it. But if they want to provide the food, we allow them to do that in a contained environment. We ensure that all the safety measures are being taken. If they want to maybe cook the food that we provide, that's an extra step. And so there's different layers and opportunities that you can do that on any budget. If it's just time or if it's talent and treasure, you can create that opportunity. So this is a great opportunity to get everybody on the same page and maybe even collaborate with our neighbors in the South.
Well, and this commission seems like the appropriate body to try to bring everything together into one sort of holistic thing. This seems like the body that can get that moving forward. I think that's a great idea.
Actually, my question was similar to Commissioner Mohammed's. Are you finding a lot of individual citizens that are really just trying to do good faith outreach and help in their way that they can, or is it primarily organizations that don't understand the compliance piece?
I've only run into a few individuals that do it quite regularly, and I've talked to them about things they could do to improve the way they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and again, from the standpoint of where they do it, is it appropriate based on where they are? And then, there's some things out there. We have a number of folks, and to me, it's the safety aspect. I'm the public safety director. So a lot of folks out there that are homeless now are on, GPS monitoring. They're on parole or probation. They have certain history, and I could show you photographs of moments in time where a church group or individual was serving food, and there was an issue there. Okay, so to me, it's the environment where we're doing it. It's responsible, and plus, I like with Jocelyn's what she's added to this is an appropriate place for other service providers that could be there too for opportunity to receive those services. A large percentage of the folks that we're dealing out there, and Sergeant Dawson can talk about this from the law enforcement standpoint, is there are folks that don't want those services. They want food. They don't really looking for those services. And some of the things we're doing now with diversion in the court is to try and steer folks that may run aside from the law, that we divert those cases and more formally introduce them into those service providers to get folks opportunity to get off the street. And so this all kind of ties together in those things. Okay, so there's a safety aspect, there's the cleanliness and health standard for it, there's the impact on refuse and trash in the community, and while these are all good intentions, we need to have some kind of collaborative effort here on what's more appropriate for our community for both sides.
Sure, there's a lot of moving parts. The public health issue is a big piece of that.
Yes.
It's
That's
number
number
one.
one.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
If you don't mind,
one of the things that we the station is, like you said, the people, the mom and pops and people that are just trying to help, is they're coming, they're not gloved, they're not wearing hair, is not refrigerated, and they are just coming and they're bringing sandwiches out of bags, and they're passing it out. And if they're having processed meats or mayonnaise or things like that, they don't realize that people that are living on the streets, their immune systems are already somewhat compromised. So we're finding people that are already lacking health care. They're already lacking the services that they need, and they don't have the money to go to the doctor when they're sick. So they're already dehydrated. It's already hot outside. So this ordinance is really for the safety. And so explain to people in those terms, even the person with the best intentions, if you leave mayonnaise out an hour or two late, for you or and I, our immune systems, well, not mine, but normal people, their immune systems are strong enough to help. But for them, it'll put them in the hospital for weeks.
Right.
Also, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
The other button.
This button.
Which one now? I got to get used to the system. Thank you. I do have a question on the fruit vendors, the ones that sell your pineapple and those fruits. What's being done with that? Because that is a big problem I see.
Yeah,
I could talk about that. That's already in our municipal code.
Okay.
Okay, so, and that's a thing we work with the health department, also with the sheriff's department, our code enforcement people, as well as people from my office. And we will set operationally out to go deal with that issue. The interesting thing for the persons that are actually standing there, that's part of a much larger group that just brings folks up along with those carts, and they're just kind of like what we're running into with other issues is there's a certain percentage of loss that they'll absorb, okay, based on how many they have out there, and it's lucrative. Typically what you'll see is that's usually out in the unincorporated area of the county, and then, or the weekends, because our enforcement people are not typically out there on the weekends for that type of issue. So we have done a lot of operational issues to deal with that, but you cite that person's just someone they picked up and are paying an hourly wage to, which is not significant, to go and stand on that corner distributing that for that period of time. They just replace that person and boom, they're out there again in another location. So we're continually dealing with that. But you're absolutely correct. They don't have a health permit. They don't have a license through the county or the city to distribute any kind of item. And so we talk about many different ways. Other cities have done a thing where they've collected the carts. They've done that. There's lots of ways to deal with that. But typically the person that's there working, they're not the owner of that cart.
Right.
They're not even part of that inventory. They're just someone that's getting paid a wage to go stand there and do that.
and the health issue with the fruit vendors is it's a real concern. You'll recall that a year or two ago, I think in Quartz Hill or Palmdale, somebody got hepatitis
Right.
off a fruit
Right.
vendor cart. So, I mean,
Yeah.
the safety and the sanitation issues are really serious concerns.
And we work very closely with the health department to support each other in this. They will set up operations on the county side that we will go and put resources to from the city, and law enforcement resources that we contract for to address that issue.
Okay, thank. So is the main entity of that particular project, where are they located and where do they come from? And or do we have anything that we can go and get the main body of people that are distributing these fruits that are really unhealthy?
And I understand that, and again, that's the health department's expertise. We work in a support role for them. Okay, so we'll do whatever enforcement's appropriate based on our municipal code and what the county's code says and the state laws as it addresses that. But how the health departments operate to find that source, that's something they do.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Yes, I want to circle back really quick. Is there going to be some type of posting where those who are interested in distributing food, where the locations are approved to be able to distribute after they come in for and fill out their application and pay their fees? Or is there going to be like some centralized location where we can make sure that the people who do want to help the homeless can have access to where they can?
Well, pursuant to this ordinance, if it's adopted, they can rent space in one of our parks. And so we're not limiting which parks they can use, which parks they can't use, where exactly. We just want to make sure that it's someplace, again, where there's access to the water and the restrooms and trash and all of that kind of stuff. And circling back again, if it's individuals who want to do this, I think that it would be our goal to encourage them to work with structured organizations that are already providing those kinds of services. Again, then you kind of have your holistic approach and not just a one-off person standing on a corner handing out sack lunches.
And on the other side, on the park rental, there is a process for fee waivers for park rentals as well. That already does exist, okay, for facility rental. But again, just like our city events, if you notice that we fall under the guise of the health department as it relates to water, access to bathrooms, all those things are regulated even at our city events and guided to us by the health department, what's required there. So that would be the same thing here. Whatever food service they're providing or how they're doing it, they're going to be required to follow whatever guidelines that the health department sets out for that type of service. Any other questions?
No, thank you. We have, Clerk, We have 2 comment cards on this agenda item, so is this when I call those speakers up? Yes. And then I have another question about forming a subcommittee. Is that something we need to take action on, or is it something that we would maybe want to assign someone from this commission to work with the CJC subcommittee? How do you see that working best?
That might actually be
That's what I'm
a better
thinking.
approach.
I think
rather than
when having two separate bodies.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't want to have more than, there are 6 on the commission. That's interesting. I wouldn't recommend having more than 2 of your commissioners
Okay.
in that group.
So we can do that offline and decide who that would be best to work, or I think that's the better way to do it than to form our own subcommittee.
I think that's correct, yes.
Be more productive.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
We'll
Okay.
stand by in case there's more questions.
Okay, we have 2 speakers to this item. Our first speaker is Greg Jesus. Do I have that last name right? I'm trying to... Jones, I'm sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for letting me speak here. As you can tell, I'm against the regulation. Basically, this is a philanthropic thing that people are doing in the community. The people that I know that are doing this clean up after themselves. I know the kind of people they are, and I know what they do. They're very involved in the community. I do want to put a couple things aside that was said here this morning. One, about the homeless encampments. That has nothing to do with food distribution of this type. In fact, it would probably come out to less, because at a food bank you pick up materials and you bring them to a camp, and whatever's left, that's what ends up there. I think as far as compliance goes, it's, most of the stuff I see is like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, things like that don't go bad. Now, if they do, they usually, I know this from working with them, they usually put the stuff together the night before or the day of, and they bring it out there for the people. It's limited, and it has less trash doing it this way than giving them a bunch of cans and things like that they're going to end up with refuge afterwards that they have to get rid of. As far as bathrooms go, I can think of every 7-Eleven and every small food place, Subways, that just don't have bathrooms. They don't have bathrooms. These people, it's not a service, really. I don't think that even the people giving the food out think of it as a service. It's something they have to do. We're going into the summer months, and there are going to be dead people out there. People are going to die out here. And I think this will add to it. I don't think it's going to detract from it. I'd like to see if there's any kind of food poisoning that's happened from these people handing food out. I know the kind of people they are. They don't hand out food that's been sitting for a couple of days or anything like that, like what you might see at a food bank. 5-day-old bread or what have you, I just can't see it. If we end up pushing these people out into the desert further, we're going to end up pushing more of these people out into the desert to get the food. 50th and D, places like that, I can guarantee there's going to be people on the way there that will be picked up dead in the desert. This will cost lives. I'm kind of upset about this, that we would see a way of doing this. I would ask that you put a stay on this, that you put this aside until you can look and see what the history has been, how many people have been hurt by food poisoning, the kind of trash that they've left. Show some evidence before we start changing things that are going to cost lives. They are. As far as food vendors go, that has nothing. That's for profit. This is nothing. This is totally philanthropic.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I have a question.
Sure.
I appreciate your observation of people that you know that is distributing locally. Is it in an area that is that you can identify specifically where it's being done successfully in your neighborhood?
If you give me some time, if you put a stay on this, allow me to bring you the paperwork for it, I would be glad to do that.
I was just wondering
I would rather
if you
not
could
put people under the gun saying this is who's doing it and this is where they are.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just curious, what would be the opposition, or what do you think that community members would be in opposed to already supporting services that are already providing these services?
Examples of people already providing?
No,
services?
no. What I'm saying is that what do you think? I understand that people want to donate things to the homeless. I'm not really quite sure how this ordinance would deter from that, other than giving them a building or a place where people would be in the air conditioning, where that if they know that they're already getting food from you on this day, with you telling people, hey, you know what, we're relocating, we're going to be now in this building over here. If you come down 3 doors down on Thursdays, where you normally would be fed out right here in front of the plane, down on Sierra Highway, the Salvation Army is feeding. Our church is going to be supporting the Salvation Army. Why don't you come here, where you're going to be in the air conditioning, where you're going to have bathrooms, where you're going to be able to wash your hands before you eat?
I'm sorry, you
Yeah,
want
I'm just curious.
just 2 places, the Salvation Army and your
No,
church?
wherever it may be, wherever you choose or whoever you choose to partner with. I'm just saying, what would be the opposition to that? I'm just curious.
Well, what we're trying to do, or what, the Green Party and some of the people who are working here are trying to do, is trying to get to know these people and figure out what's wrong with them, what's going on, trying to outreach. I think stopping it at this point by causing these people to have to put in for some kind of registration or fees for permits to be able to do this. I remember when the Grocers Union went on strike, and I brought food to the people who sat out there and waited on strike. I can't imagine that somebody would say, no, you can't bring that food here. You can't give them the
Sure.
lasagna you made. They need to suffer through this on their own. It's being a firm union member. I would probably end up breaking that rule anyway.
But what would be the opposition to just coming and supporting an organization that's already there? You don't have to register. You don't have to pay. They're already set up. They're already aligned. You just come in, and all you do is provide your support. And you can communicate with these people. You just talk with them, and you just love on them, and you just give them and you can cook there, and you're in a sanitary kitchen where everything's being provided in a sanitary way. And you can bring the food, and have it prepared in a sanitary way, knowing that these people are going to be provided in the best way, in the best optimal conditions for their health. And it's under no regulation by anybody.
Yeah, I understand. So what you're saying is that we should just volunteer at a certain place.
No, you can come in on your own. I think with Acosta, I come and I feed the homeless, and I'm not under any regulation, under
That
anything.
place.
I've done it at numerous places. I've done it at Salvation Army. I've done it at Grace Resource. Anywhere, any church, if you just come and you offer your services, they'll take you.
Well, I really believe that these people are building a following where they're at, and if given time, if you could put a stay on this, if given time, maybe they could get them over there, but I can guarantee this will cost life.
Can I say something in this also?
Sure.
It's not the idea your friend has in feeding. That's great. But the thing of it is, we are not only looking at one particular individual or one particular group of people that serve food on their own. We're looking at stabilizing the health part of this, because a lot of people, we don't know how they cook their food or how they make their sandwiches or this kind of thing. And this is what we're talking about. It's not generally the individual person that's nice and human and beautiful enough to feed the homeless. That's not what we're really, I think, what we're really asking. What we're trying to get is to be able to not control, that's a bad word, but be able to, the people that are giving out, that they make sure that they are in a healthy manner preparing the foods. I think that's where we're at. It's not, we have nothing against what your friends are doing.
I understand that. But I can't see anybody getting their life. I mean, that I'm okay, you're okay type thing. From me, I have a personal saying that I use. It's a person is only as virtuous as their known options. This I use in life with everybody. And from what I see, these people don't have many options like us in this room. And to take one away is going to cost. That's just how I see it. If you could just put a stay on it, just hold it aside until these people can figure out what to do as far as getting a hold of you or figuring out a way to make this work. But just bringing down the curtain this quickly people are going to get hurt. I mean, at the very least.
Yeah, first, let me say this. We appreciate the spirit in which you're presenting the information. I think that there is a need, and the city is attempting to figure out a way to best address the need. So I have a question for you. What would be the bigger concern? I think it kind of echoed in my head when you said that people would be trying to travel through the desert in the heat. Is it a transportation issue that you're concerned with? Is it just getting information out issue that you're concerned with? What's the primary issue so that we can go back to and maybe address an actual issue versus us just kind of trying to just put a stay per se, because we want to move forward, but we want to move forward as kindly as possible and as humane as possible. So what would you recommend?
I would recommend further evaluation than just the people who proposed this ordinance. I mean, I would want to see what kind of trash is being left, and go in and look at these people and see what they're serving. Just get an idea of what we're talking about here before we just wipe it out.
It sounded to me when you first brought up the concern that the understanding of this ordinance was that they're discouraging people from serving those in need. That was what I kind of heard from you. Please correct me if I'm wrong. You're saying what are they going to do if we're not going to serve them anymore? But if I interpreted this correctly, the ordinance is not saying we don't want people who are concerned about the homeless to go serve them. That's not what it's saying. What it's saying is, let's get everyone who wants to serve kind of serving in the same direction and towards the same goals, which is healing, which is connecting them to all the other services that are available, not forcing them to use them, just making them available. So I am only one of several agencies that makes the campus available with restrooms, with food on any level. So if somebody said, I don't have much money, but I want to help, they can show up and help distribute the food or have lunch with someone just to get to know them. If somebody said, I want to donate food, but I don't have the time to serve it, I'll take the food, prepare it, and serve it, and say it came from this organization or this individual. If somebody doesn't agree with Salvation Army and just doesn't want to, have anything to do with them, there are several agencies that are willing to serve and offer their facility to do the same thing, including the shelter, by the way. The Sierra Highway facility is only one. It's accessible. But the shelter is another facility. So if somebody were saying, I want to serve those affected by homelessness, this ordinance is simply saying, hey, why not get together with others who agree with you? And why don't you do it along those same lines and for the same goals?
Right now, at
Thank
this
you,
time,
Hector.
people are showing up for the food that they're handing out.
Sure.
This is an option.
Sure.
That option will be cut off.
I
They
don't-
will find, after a while, your option. They will find it, or they'll find others. They will. But in that time, during that time, this adjustment will cost at least some starvation, at worst death, I believe, from today, if we decide to move forward on it today. I think there should be further evaluation of what we're talking about before we just slam a law on it. Regulation's fine. Believe me, I'm a New Deal guy. I love regulation. I think this is being approached too quickly and without thought.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. We have 2 more comment cards on this, unless you have any further questions, Hector.
Well, actually, I wanted to, sorry.
No, go for it.
Mr. DeRico could probably address this. It's going to take some time for this ordinance to roll out. Mr. DeRico, can you speak to time frame?
Yes, it'll be related to how the subcommittees come back, and then depending on the council schedule, okay, moving forward, based on the recommendations from this commission and as well as the community, the CJC.
So there would be quite a few months before this would.
I wouldn't say quite a few months. I'd say, probably potentially sometime in the next 60 to 90 days, I would believe that would be.
But in that process, this subcommittee is actually meant to address some of the concerns that were raised here, so that it's not, as you say, drop the curtain on this thing, but the transition.
Well, I
period.
will tell you, no one's dropped the curtain on anything.
Sure, it doesn't sound that way.
This is well
but-
thought out, had been discussed for some time now. So just on that note, even though that it's just being sunlighted at this commission at this point, there's been significant discussion through the city administration as well as us on a staff level as it relates to this issue. So no one's trying to just dump things on anybody. The reality of this is that there's a concern for both sides that address it. The locations where these are being done, whether they're appropriate, and all the things that you've all discussed here today, as well as the health potential issue. Now, it's interesting that no one has an issue with us going out and dealing with fruit vendors or corn vendors or things like that from that health standpoint, but an issue is now becoming, it doesn't apply the same health requirement to feeding homeless folks. Absolutely, they can suffer the same issues from anybody, well-intentioned or whatever that may be, okay? What we're looking for is having identified locations that are appropriate based on what service is trying to be provided. And listen, the reality of this is I served and my children at the Methodist Church since the time I was a teenager. That soup kitchen has been going on for 50 years over there. Okay, so there's a lot of these locations that are providing those services are well known throughout the homeless community or the community at large who are just in need. So these things exist out there. This is just to make it more appropriate from a health and safety standpoint.
I think it'd be safe to say, if we know this is going to be rolling out within 60 to 90 days, we would have enough time to notify the people that are coming that are feeding right now to let them know of the additional locations, right? Is there a way, Hector, that we could put together a list of the current places that are feeding or that are offering services?
Yeah,
and that
absolutely.
we could start passing those out, and maybe that we could offer Mr. Jones a copy of that list?
Absolutely, and that's a
They could
natural
distribute
step.
them?
If I'm right, I saw you yesterday at the Homeless Coalition.
No.
No? Okay, maybe you just. You look
Ratings
you look
inspector,
exactly
I
like
work
him. Yeah,
downtown.
kind of. Okay.
I took today off just to be here.
Okay, so I appreciate your heart, and I love that you're here speaking up for it. So I just want to be clear that we're not saying we're going to stop people from serving those in need. That is not what's being conveyed here. And if I have that opportunity, I'll definitely be a part of this, subcommittee or whatever it is to roll it out, to be clear about that and to facilitate, this transition of, we're not saying we're not going to serve them anymore. We're saying let's serve better. In fact, I think that's the message. Let's serve better. Let's be more effective about how we're doing this. And so, and I'm telling you this as a person who's on the front lines. I'm one of those people that does the serving. I'm one of those that coordinates
and
it.
I thank you for your work. I think without you, it'd even be worse. I would be probably screaming at this point.
Yeah, so we're not okay with that. We're not okay with saying, hey, these guys are going to be left out in the cold. These guys are going to go hungry. Absolutely not. That's unacceptable.
But we cannot make it illegal for one person to give food to another person.
Sure, but we should make it safe and we should make it effective. I agree with you.
Okay.
And
it cannot be illegal for someone to give food to another person.
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know that we're going to come into agreement. I just want you to know that my heart hears you, and I will be a part of ensuring that we are doing it safely and effectively and helping those in need. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jones. We need to move on to our other speaker cards. We still have two speakers on this agenda item. Ms. Granai, is it Joanne or Stephanie?
Oh, no, I don't go on camera. I'm too big to be on camera. Hi, guys. Ooh, cut me off. I just want to start off, and I made this clear before, I'm one of these people. As a former homeless person, utilizing Grace Resources, using several of the services not today. Right now, I'm technically considered homeless under the county because I rent a room. You know, home, what do you guys call it? Insecure. And so I will say I am in 100% agreement with this, because as these people, we deserve the same regulations as a restaurant. Why is it that I now can go into a restaurant and I get to see a rating and I get to see that these people have complied with certain health standards, but over here there's no health standards? We do not want what happened in San Diego to happen again. I was one of those ones that had to go run to the county department and get my Hep A shots because I was utilizing the vendors. So, you know, just because I'm just used to that. We have a big issue out here that I hope is part of the design of this commission, which is looking at the duplication of services, because we cannot afford to waste money. If someone can come into your establishment and bring food, that's maybe $100 that your agency can now apply somewhere else. Please, God, don't put it to more food. You know, it looks like we got a lot of food out here and everybody's serving it. Let's get it consolidated, not saying necessarily site-wise, but consolidate our efforts so that those agencies with money can turn around and use that money elsewhere. Maybe a shuttle bus. If we could save some money, good God, maybe we can get a shuttle bus out here that can take people, that does just a little roundabout, you know, and grabs people, takes them to go eat, and does another roundabout and takes them back. That's what's possible if we do it right. Another thing, liability. Someone does get sick and die, who's getting sued? The city for allowing it. The city for not taking action. This is a huge liability. I am someone who's been bringing this up and talking about this to the community for a while, going, don't go serve at the plane, don't go consolidate with agencies that are already out here. It's possible, they are very welcome, and I'm sorry, it does all these different places to go eat, makes every outreach person's job harder. I'm sorry. Done outreach as well. I worked in HIV. I had to go and find people. I walked out in the desert. I did bleach kits to drug users. I did all of that stuff. If you keep feeding people in all these different places, you're professionals that have to develop these relationships, the professionals that know how to kind of eyeball some diagnosis and look at, this person's got a little bit more than what I can handle. Let me build a relationship with them and get an actual professional out here to help them. These people are trained to go out there to kind of see what's going on, to realize what services, and I can appreciate the community wanting to develop these relationships, but they do not have the necessary training to do what is right by the good-hearted as everybody is. They don't have the training. They don't have the know-how. They don't have the ability to link into a resource, follow it through, make sure that linkage was made. They don't have that. And so people are falling through. Again, as good-hearted as they may be, I don't negate that. I appreciate it, and I think get trained. Get with an agency. Even as a volunteer, you can volunteer for an agency. They'll pay for your training to teach you how to do this and how to link into services. Right now, we're trying to coordinate. And with everybody running amok and doing their own thing, that's not coordinated. Okay? It's harder. It makes the job harder, not easier. You're doing a disservice, not a service. You are hurting more than helping. In the broad picture, I know with the immediate need of food. And let me tell you, the homeless grapevine network is strong. If I know something, I could tell you if I see someone handing out food in Jane Reynolds Park on an off day, on a weird day, within 20 minutes, everybody knows about it because I've texted somebody. Man, that network is strong. So if they find out something that's going on, everybody already knows. They're on Facebook. They're out there texting each other. They got their free minutes in the beginning of the month, you know. Hit it at the beginning of the month. Make sure it is at the beginning because everybody gets their cell phone minutes if you send out any kind of messaging and whatnot. That's another thing. When we get them into agencies, we're able to get their phone numbers so we can text message them. This has to be a coordinated effort. The city cannot be held liable for something that individuals are doing, and when they're speeding on city property, it is absolutely a liability.
Sounds like you agree then with
Absolutely.
what's going on.
I'm
Yeah,
in support
good.
of it. That's what's in the beginning. Absolute
Thank you
support
for,
of this.
yeah.
So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, one more speaker, Caesar Magellan.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for taking the time to discuss this issue. I have a few concerns. I agree, and I think everyone in this room agrees, that food safety and the health of our homeless population is absolutely important, and an unregulated serving of food is an issue that could potentially be catastrophic. I wonder about the punitive measures that might be implemented and whether fining people who are serving food is a correct option. If the issue is litter, I believe that the city has an exclusive contract with waste management and can leverage that relationship to to address the issue of beautification and litter and trash. I wonder if it might not be better for the city to provide opportunities for interested individuals and organizations to receive food handling certifications and food safety certifications instead of taking the approach of penalizing people for trying to do the right thing. I think these are proactive, constructive effects, and I worry about the fact that we are putting into our municipal code something that can later be used to penalize people. I heard assurances from the city today that that is not the intention, but I think I've seen in several other places where the initial intention eventually fades, and we have given someone a hammer to hit people who are doing the right thing from the bottom of their hearts. The city of Los Angeles recently got rid of its food vending law that criminalized food vending because it raised serious issues about whether the punitive measures were affecting families and community members in a way that was not intended to happen, and whether or not that was actually addressing the public safety concerns. I think there are much better things that we can do than to penalize people and fine them for trying to feed the homeless, and I share Sergeant Dawson's concerns that we have a population out there who already has a compromised immune systems, who's already dealing with dehydration, and I think Mr. Jones was correct in saying that the transition period to now possibly create a situation where people might miss meals, I think we can potentially create a catastrophe and a disaster through this implementation. I really, really strongly urge this commission and the city of Lancaster in general to avoid adding more punitive measures to the municipal code, to avoid potentially criminalizing people for feeding the homeless, and to instead leverage the relationship with people like Waste Management to create opportunities for food certification handling, to actually construct and broaden that base of support in the community. I strongly believe that the more fines and fees that we add potentially in the future can be abused. I think that's not what we want to do and where we want to go.
I got a question for you.
Sure.
I love your heart, and thank you so much for. Oops. Sorry. Thanks for speaking to that. So let's just play this out. The ordinance is not put in place, but you provide food handlers, and you provide tools to make it safe. And there are individuals who still refuse to operate under that guise, and people are hurt because of it. And it does, I think that the mess and the way that things are handled, because oftentimes people don't kind of think things through, creates more expense, right? And so how do you address that if it's not through ordinance? How do you address that if it's not some structured policy?
At this point, what I would say is that only doing the punitive measures and only adding these fines, these fees, and these violations of the municipal code without also providing those alternatives and those supportive measures to get people on the right track and to get these people in a position where they can actually serve food safely, where the trash is taken care of. I think if we're going to do one, we have to do both.
Oh, okay. So you're saying if this is to be rolled out, let's also provide the tools.
Right.
Oh,
but at this moment, without any of those other programs, any of those other supports, I think only adding these violations is a mistake.
Sure.
And I don't think that's what we want to do. I really would encourage a subcommittee that's going to be formed and going to meet to start addressing ways that we can handle some of these gaps, because it's difficult for some people who are lay people, who are just church-going folk who are wanting to do the right thing for the community. I don't think it's sometimes difficult for them to understand the food certification process and how to get that done. I think the litter issue is a problem. I live in the city of Lancaster since 1993. I know that it's an issue, but we have a relationship. We give Waste Management an exclusive monopoly to provide services and to charge residents in this community. We have some leverage that we can use to address the trash issue without, again, penalizing people for doing the right thing and without potentially denying food for populations who are experiencing homelessness.
Sure, and we can also address it at the root, and we can also provide some preventive measures, and we can also teach the community that we want to do the right thing the right way. Oftentimes we just want to do the right thing and we're not concerned about the side effects, right, that causes and the way that actually hurts people. So I think we want to be sensitive to that. And so I appreciate what you're saying, and I agree. I think that's the approach, is we're going to say, let's do this in a way that's healthy, let's do it in a way that's effective, and let's provide tools, right, to support that statement. but the ordinance is saying, we're serious about doing this the right way.
And I understand why we need to handle this and why this is an issue that's come up and why it's been an issue in the community for a very long time. But I haven't heard discussion, again, about creating those opportunities for people to receive food handling certification, food safety training. I haven't heard of these proposals. Maybe I'm not framing it the right way. I haven't seen enough focus as much as I would like and would feel comfortable with on these constructive measures to help the community help itself. And to prevent some of these issues, as you're saying, what I'm hearing is a lot of punitive measures being added to people for trying to do the right thing. And I think the optics and the perception in the community is going to probably be along those lines, just based on the Antelope Valley Press article I read that got me to this meeting. Yeah. And there needs to be much better communication with the community about what the intent is and what the city is doing before they get to the point where they start actually citing people's grandmothers for giving sandwiches to the homeless on Lancaster Boulevard and Sierra Highway. I think that's an issue this commission needs to seriously take into consideration.
Yeah, we don't want that.
No, we don't want that to happen. Sorry.
What if an agency was to take the lead and maybe sponsor, I don't know, I'm completely out of my league here. I don't know how much it would cost to do a class on certifying people to handle food, to where maybe we could offer classes at really a reduced fee or something like that, if maybe we could get a sponsor for that or something.
I'm sorry, what?
Yes, I do.
So that way, people that want to learn to do that want to come in and help and volunteer. But I think the whole goal is to not feed people on the street. I think part of it is to be more humane. We need to get people to rise to the level that why do they not deserve to be seated at a table? And I think that's part of the whole concept here that we're working towards, is that when people feel that somehow they're unworthy enough to sit at a table to eat, that they should be fed on the streets. I think that's what we're trying to move away from, is to get them to realize that they deserve to be housed. They deserve to be fed at a table. They deserve the opportunities to have a safe place to be at night. Sometimes when you're living in the streets, you lose that sense that you deserve these things, or that you have the opportunity to have these things. And I think that's where we're kind of moving towards. And when we look at these holistic approaches, it's not just, hey, we want to get the homeless off the streets because, we just don't want them around and they're causing trash. It's when we look at the Kensington Project, it's addressing the whole person. And, when you look at the ideas, that I get that when the churches are feeding people, but they're passing out food to people. And I know this sounds really horrific how you explain it, but it's like tossing them food.
And I would agree that people deserve dignity and they deserve the basic safety that we all enjoy. I'm not disagreeing with that. Again, my focus and what I want to convey to this commission, and I'm sorry if I've been a little, bless you. Sorry for being a little over the place. I get emotional about this issue because many of my friends have experienced homelessness and some of them currently are. My concern, again, is that when we talk about how to address this issue, we can't just move straight to fees. We can't just move straight to discouraging people from feeding people and potentially putting others in harm. I agree with that. I think we do need to have more coordination of services because the duplication of effort only prolongs the problem and makes it more difficult to address at the root issue. I agree with that.
Caesar, we appreciate your spirit and we appreciate you bringing it to the commission. A lot of the things and the concerns that you have will be flushed out in the subcommittees.
Right.
So we really appreciate your time.
Right. Thank you, Caesar. Okay, agenda item number 2. We have the Lancaster Community Homeless Plan draft update. Melissa Varela.
First time using the clicker, so bear with me today. Good morning, and thank you, Chairman Tremere and fellow commissioners. As you're aware, this past fall, the City of Lancaster applied for and received a city planning grant with the County of Los Angeles to address and combat homelessness. Staff looked to broaden the collective impact and accelerate change by undertaking a locally specific plan to combat homelessness, the Lancaster Community Homelessness Plan. We are excited about the plan as we gain a better understanding of the matters that contribute to homelessness and the makeup of the homeless population here in Lancaster. Like many cities, Lancaster expects the plan will add to the other regional planning regarding homelessness and will help set the intentions for addressing homelessness moving forward. The process for the Lancaster Homelessness Plan included 3 phases. Phase 1, develop understanding. During this phase, staff and our consultant collected and analyzed data and information about community and homelessness demographics, housing stocks, local service providers, and services available in Lancaster. Phase 2, community outreach and participation. This phase engaged the community to better understand the unique perspectives and needs in Lancaster. The community outreach process included 2 online surveys, 1 community workshop, 5 focus groups, and interviews with stakeholders and homeless individuals. The survey itself garnered nearly 400 responses from the community and service providers alone, which played a vital role in acquiring information for our plan. As well, the workshop was very positive and introduced the plan and solicited feedback on the impacts of the potential options of combating homelessness here in Lancaster. The workshop was formatted in an open house style where stations were available to attendees so they can ask questions and provide input. If you get the opportunity, behind me we have one of the activities at the workshop, A Day in the Life, that might interest you as well after the meeting. Phase 3, Community Homelessness Plan, Development, and Adoption. Following the initial data collection and outreach phases, the consultant team is currently working closely with city staff to develop the Lancaster Community Homelessness Plan. We are in its final stage, and we are looking for it to be presented to you and City Council this August. However, today I'd like to introduce and share the goals of the plan. Goal 1, prevention. Providing activities and programs designed to prevent the incidence of homelessness and improving their chances of not becoming homeless. Goal 2, housing. Providing a variety of suitable housing options to allow unsheltered homeless and sheltered homeless persons to transition to permanent housing. Kensington campus is a great example of this goal. Goal 3, engagement. Engaging with the homeless community, service providers, and the community at large on the topic of homelessness, thus providing easy access to information and opportunities to get services as well as volunteer. Essentially, we will be providing education about homelessness here in Lancaster. One of the things that we talked about that an action item under this goal would be establishing the Lancaster 211 as a resource hub for all things homeless related, much like what we, Commissioner Acosta spoke about earlier, getting this hub, if you will, of regarding the ordinance that was presented by public safety. That would fall under this realm as well. Our 4th goal, public safety. Ensuring Lancaster is a safe and clean place that is welcoming to residents and visitors. At our last meeting, we discussed the expansion of the Boulevard Ambassador program throughout the entire community, and this will support this goal as well. Goal 5, data-driven responses. Implementing solutions that are data-driven and or have been proven and tested through success. Goal 6, community vitality. Increasing the use and enjoyment of public spaces by the entire community. Addressing the needs of all community members, including the homeless. A supporting action may include the ordinance that was presented today by public safety regarding the food ordinance. And our 7th and final goal, regional collaboration, which is continuing to collaborate with regional partners as well as advocating for solutions related to homelessness at a state and regional level. All the goals mentioned today address the anticipated needs, service gaps, regional and cooperative opportunities, and provide ideas to help leverage the anticipated resources that will be identified in the plan. The concluding phase includes the plan to be presented at the County of Los Angeles Board of Supervisors meeting in August to discuss and provide next steps in terms of funding. Much like the County of Los Angeles has established Measure M to broaden and accelerate the pace of change in regard to homelessness, we also look forward to their funding allocations to be used in order to implement the items that are noted in our Lancaster Community Homelessness Plan. In closing, Lancaster acknowledges that the challenges surrounding homelessness are complex and addressing them will be no easy task by any means. However, we do look forward to the plan as we continue the process of combating homelessness here in Lancaster. And that concludes my presentation today. If you have any questions, I'm available for that as well. Thank you.
Questions, anyone? Are you presenting this to us today for vote? Yes? No?
No,
Or
no
just as
vote.
presentation? Okay.
We're
Just
still,
wanted to make sure. Okay.
We're in our final phase, the third
Right.
phase. So
I
what
wanted
is
to
happening now,
clarify that.
the draft is just about done. We're not there yet. We have an extension through the county, and we're looking at August at this point in time.
Okay. I wanted to clarify that.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Moving on, recording secretary, your announcement. This would be for non-agendized public comment.
Any person who would like to address the Lancaster Homeless Impact Commission on a non-agendized matter may complete a speaker card, which can be found on the back table of the council chambers. Please fill the card out completely and print out as clearly as possible. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. If you choose to ask a question during this time, any response from a commission member will not extend your 3 minutes. State law prohibits the commission members from taking action on items that are not on the agenda, and matter will be referred to the city manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first speaker card, David Paul.
Chair Tamir and Commissioners, good morning. You know, it's always interesting to watch how this stuff gets handled. You know, I was sitting over there thinking about when I was a young man, I experienced some homelessness between the ages of 16 and 17 until I joined the Army. I was in New York City, and I don't mean to compare that to the Antelope Valley, but Mr. Jones made a good point. There was a place in Greenwich Village called Contact where you could go and get a peanut butter jelly sandwich and a carton of milk anytime. So if you're just hungry, there's a way to get food that doesn't hurt people. And, you know, I would walk there if I hadn't had anything to eat. And that was nice to have a spot where you could at least just, you don't have to have a kitchen, you don't have to have anything, you just have some, you know, and then there's peanut allergies, and so we were getting more. But something to eat is something, it's always nice to find. So all I can say is the ordinance, I understand, is to protect the city and to give us tools to manage better some of these things. So I'm in support of that. We have to do our best, and I see us here constantly working at it, so I appreciate that. Let's keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you, David. One more speaker card, Stephanie Granite.
Hello again. I just wanted to say that as a suggestion, just from my experience, I do run the group, the Antelope Valley Voice. I have created a page and I've started going live at meetings. I was live at yesterday's Homeless Coalition. I've been live now twice here. The last video, I think we got about 10,000 organic hits on it because I do get the analytics of it. People want to see what's going on. They can't leave work. I would really like to see, I'll keep coming as long as it's not televised, as long as someone's not putting their phone up. I'm going to try and be here because my job, I'm blessed to have that opportunity to do that. People want to see that people are asking questions. Someone also commented during, so I can bring their comments too. Someone mentioned that AVC through their community business, I forget the name of it, through the community education, see, I'll read her comment. Dee Dee was the one who said it, that they offer the food handlers course as well. And so just wanted to bring that instead of interrupting. I want to say that whatever I can do to help, I'm here. The platform that I have available and that is growing, we're trying to make it to reach the community. It also goes into the scanner page. Currently, we are broadcasting live in the scanner page. That has a 35,000 people reach. Okay, so we are reaching right now. They are watching what's going on here. We have community members in that group, in our group, that want to be able to disseminate as much information for the safety and well-being of our community as possible. So we are here at your disposal. I'm trying to get involved in as many boards and get involved as a voice of somebody who was homeless. Because I think it's important that that voice be heard. Because unless you've been there, you can talk all day what you think you should do. You got to have that voice of, let me explain to you being out here what it's like being homeless. Let me explain to you what it's like finding services. Let me explain to you what it's like not having a car and being told, sorry, we can't help you because you don't have your ID or you don't have your eligibility for benefits. What is that like? Because you just get depressed and you walk away. That voice, I think, really should be on the commission. Let me just put that plug in there right now. I've already bugged Mr. Chris. I want to get involved on that level. Not to cause problems, but I have a passion for my community that Ms. Tamir, you've experienced. Everybody experienced. I want to be involved in the solution, not just complaining about the problem, not complaining about how people are fixing the problem. I want to be a part of that mechanism that can put my voice in a productive manner, and I think that's necessary to bring a different angle to it. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing. I think that I was very happy yesterday with the commission. There was a little confusions and stuff like that with dates, but, I see things moving in the right direction. And I have to step back and not just be, always complain. So I kudos to everybody. Congratulations on this commission and that coalition. I think everybody's going the right direction. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, are there any other comments from the board that anybody would like to make? We've had some great dialogue today. That's good. Okay. I want to say I appreciate everyone's public comment today. I know this is a passionate topic for everyone, and we as a commission appreciate your attendance and your thoughtful comments today. So.